Hi everyone, thank you all so much for joining us today. Sorry we had a little hiccup with the internet connection, so here we go again. So bear with us. Thank you all so much for joining. I will add my guest shortly. Abby, I look forward to sharing her story with you guys all. I hope it's inspiring. I know I will. And so let's get to it. So here, and hopefully this time around it does work well. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much. Yay! I hope this time around it does work out. Can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you. Oh,
Really?
there we go. Good. We're good now.
Yay,
Yeah.
Abby!
Okay, perfect. Yay.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being so flexible. Thank you everyone for joining us today. So first off, thank you for joining and for accepting to share your story today with us. This is another interview of Latinx Chats. So Abby today will be just sharing her story as a Latina immigrant in the US and what that was all like for her and what it's kind of what pros and cons that brings, right? So yeah, Abby, if you don't mind, we'll just kind of dive into it. So if you can just share with us your full name, where you're from, your parents from, kind of that stuff.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for first of all giving me the platform to do it. And I'm so grateful for anyone that's watching. I hope that you guys just have fun with us and like get something out of our chat, whether it's inspiration or hope or whatever it may be, or just a good laugh. So I'm Abby Baltezar. It's so good to chat with you, Jenny. And I was born in Mexico City. I moved to San Diego when I was 10 years old with my family, which was one of the most beautiful things that I say has happened to me because it's kind of put me where I am today. And like I said, I was 10 years old. I didn't know how to speak English at all whatsoever. Got into my 6th grade classroom and was just probably staring at everyone and the teacher like a deer in headlights, you know, just kind of trying to figure everything out. But yeah, I'm really excited to chat with everybody. And it was growing up a Latina in Southern California, I think is a very unique experience because there are such beautiful aspects and of course there's its challenges. But I think something that's very unique to San Diego especially, or just Los Angeles, you know, anywhere in Southern California that I think people can relate, is that you feel like you really do belong, right? You look around and you do see a lot of other Latinos, Latinas growing up around you. You hear a lot of Spanish being spoken, which is an awesome thing. But then there's also that like duality. And I know you probably have heard it before. I think one of your guests has said it before, and it always comes back to that Selena quote. Yeah, she's quoting Selena, the movie, where it says, you know, where they say, you have to be more Mexican than the Mexicans and you have to be more American than the Americans, and it's exhausting. And so that's kind of that side of it where you do feel like you don't want to fit a stereotype that is quote unquote negative or bad. And so you do feel like I have to prove myself. There's kind of like that pressure. So there's both like the beautiful sides of it, and you're sharing with a community that's a lot like you in Southern California. And then there's the pressure kind of that part.
Of course, yeah. And so what would you say, kind of based on your experience and immigrating to the US from Mexico and just the two different cultures, right? Like, what would you say kind of would be that thing that you're kind of maybe proud of our like Mexican culture in general? Like, kind of being able to embrace it in both sides, right? Like what would that be for you?
I think that one thing that I'm really proud of embracing in our culture is like just the vibrant communities, our food, the most beautiful and colorful traditions. Of course, I'm talking about Latinos in general, but I'm going to speak most of Mexican cultures because all my family is Mexican. Obviously, I just told you this, I'm Mexican. So I think that there's so much to be proud of. The traditions, like I said, the colorful community that we have. But I think one thing that is really, really important for me anyway, and that as I grow older, I learn to embrace and value even more, is like that sense of like tight-knit families and communities. And those like links that really, really keep us so connected to our people. And I think that's something that's really special to our culture. It's so, we're so loving and so affectionate in general. And I think that's something that you learn since you're a little kid, right? You're always with your tios and your tias and your thousands of primos, and you learn to support each other. You learn to be part of each other's lives and to make that a priority. And I think that's a really valuable thing to keep as you get older.
Yeah, I definitely agree. 100%. My family is also huge. We're huge in that family, just kind of love and support. So I definitely can relate to that. And I'm sure a lot of Latinos and Latinas can relate to that as well. Yeah. So I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And so I know your journey has been somewhat kind of tough, immigrating and kind of what you've gone through. And we'll touch on it briefly, but what would you say has been kind of like your motivating factor in your life throughout all your struggles and all the great things as well in life? Like, what's been kind of that motivator for you?
You know, as cliche as it may be, but hands down, my family. Every single time there's something amazing happening in life, whether it's a graduation, a new job, a career path, really anything at all that there is to celebrate, they will be my first cheerleaders, the people in my corner, and the people always pushing me to strive for more. And during the hardest and the darkest of times, they have been that motivator for sure. There's no better example of hard work, of super amazing work ethic than my parents. I mean, the fact that they, by the time they were my age, which is kind of crazy and wild to think about, right? And I think so many people our age can relate. By the time my parents were my age, they had like almost a 14-year-old and a, 10-year-old, and they had moved to another country without speaking the language, all to make our lives that much better, all with that focus in mind. So I think that anytime I need a little motivation, I think about that and I'm good to go. Like they really truly are that drive that pushes me forward. And having a younger sibling has always been also something that pushes me forward. Shout out to my brother. It really is something that has always pushed me forward, because I always feel like, what can I do to pave your path? What can I do to help you in any sort of way? So hands down, my family, for sure, my motivator.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I relate to that as well. I think they're huge. They're a huge factor in so many aspects of our lives. So I definitely can relate in that aspect as well. So let's dive into a little bit kind of like on your experience with education and kind of coming from Mexico, and like kind of how that was for you. Learning English as a second language, right? So kind of all those hurdles that I also had to go through that as well. So like, so what was that? Maybe we can touch on kind of your college experience, and what was that for you as a Latina, like going to undergrad at UC Irvine. For any Cali people that know of UC schools, they're really intense and they are hardcore in regards to like how to get in and kind of that, right? And so for you on your end, like, can you share kind of your experience as far as like how that process was for you, and when was it that you decided like, okay, I need to like further my education and I need to go for the college degree, and kind of when was that and how did that happen?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I feel like moving from a completely different country, you have to go through that process of going through culture shock and learning a new language. So like I said, I was 10 years old, but I was in 6th grade. I had skipped a grade when I was little in Mexico. And so when I moved here and they kind of did the assessment test for me to go into school, they were like, well, she's testing, for her group, for 6th grade, but her English is obviously, I didn't know anything. So they kind of said, should we put her back into like a grade? She wouldn't be falling behind technically. And of course, my parents, my overachieving parents were like, no, she can handle it. She'll learn. And you know what? I'm so grateful. Learning that, I feel like it opens up your whole perspective now that you know you have to learn something else. It's kind of like in a need basis, and so it really, at least for me personally, it really helped me learn English more quickly and learn how to be adaptable. And that's something that I've carried with me throughout my adult life as well. So you know, going through school, and once I started getting a little older in high school is when I realized about my undocumented status. And let's just keep in mind that this is pre-DACA times, right? So thank God nowadays, if you talk to somebody about Dreamers, if you say DACA, most people know what you're referring to, right? And there are, I don't want to say way more, but there are more forms of aid for DACA students. And like I said, thank God for all that. But before this came into play, so early 2000s, when I was about to graduate high school, that just wasn't a thing. You know, DACA wasn't in place yet, and we were holding on kind of to the hopes that it would be one day. But being an undocumented student was way more taboo, in my experience, at least. Even living in Southern San Diego, in the South Bay, you know, it was still a very taboo subject. Only my closest friends knew. And, you know, you're like a high school student and you're going to like quinceañeras, and people are going out and partying in Tijuana, growing up in San Diego, you know, that like, border town. And here I was like, I can't go, right? So I'm having to like make up all kinds of reasons of why I can't. Oh, you know what? I can't do it because I have so much homework, or you know what? I can't do this, you know. So it becomes this like I said, a taboo thing, something you're ashamed of. I didn't want to talk about it back then. It was a lot more, it was scary. It was like, you know, bringing that part of you was making you feel way more vulnerable, and you were always scared. Someone's going to tell, I'm going to get deported, my family's going to get deported. Like, this is a real thing that like high school kids, you know, are and were thinking about then. So when it came to college, most specifically, my high school counselor, I remember the day, and I will never forget the day that I told him, you know, so here's like across his desk, tiny 16-year-old senior Abby, and he's talking to me about college, and I go, okay, yeah, I'm planning to apply to these colleges, and I'm excited. He's looking at my transcript, and he goes, yeah, but you don't have a social security number. And I go, yeah, I don't. And he just looked at me and he goes, I don't know what to do with you. I literally can't forget, and I won't ever forget that. So here I was, you know, sitting down in front of him with a 4.3 GPA, with tons of extracurricular activities and community service hours. But my counselor is looking straight at me saying, I can't help you. I don't know what to do. So that was a really hard thing to hear at the time, especially for like a little nerd like I was. I was like, what do you mean? I'm going to go to school and I'm going to get a scholarship. And so that was really, really hard. And I think that's the moment that I realized I have to take another path, and I'm going to have to figure this out. My parents, like I said, are the most supportive in anything and everything I do. But in the end, they were immigrants who had no idea how the school system works, right? In the States, they had no idea what it is to apply. It's like a whole culture. You have to know like when application deadlines are and what a personal statement is and all this stuff. So from very early on, in like mid high school, they started talking to me about it. They said, we want to help you, but it's going to be up to you most of the time, right? So I had to, you know, try and again, so you think, okay, I'll go talk to my counselor, but then I didn't get anything from my counselor. Thank God I really had some of the best teachers who prepped me. I had really good English teachers, and so I talked to them. So we were trying to figure out a way to see, how am I going to go to school, right? At this point, I was just thinking, so what, do I just like not go to college, or what do I do? I had older cousins too who were attending Salvation College, a community college in San Diego. So I was able to go there, figure out a program. I think it was AB 540, correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows out there. But it was a program before DACA became a thing. So I was able to find a way into that program and start going to Southwestern College. Long story short, obviously as undocumented students, we couldn't get any aid. That was, again, a thing before DACA. We couldn't get any scholarships. We couldn't get anything. So
like state level and federal level, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the only scholarship I got one scholarship, and it was through dance, through folclorico, ballet folklorico. Yeah. Yay! It was yeah. So I was able to apply for a scholarship, and it was like the Mariachi Foundation or something like that. And I think it was like $750, which got me through maybe my first semester of college. But after that, and I think a lot of people out there, whether you're undocumented or not, can relate. Putting yourself through college can be tough financially, right? Sure. When there are no loans available to you, when there's nothing, like literally no way to get help. So I had to, work, figure out ways. And of course, you're undocumented, so you're trying to work, which is already tricky enough, right? So it's this whole thing where you're constantly dancing with the idea of feeling shame, but it's not your fault, but you're still trying. So it's like this circle that keeps going around. But got through Salvation. I went to Salvation College for about 6 years, again, because I couldn't, go full time. I was kind of going part time. I found great comfort in a supportive community in the performing arts department and the dance department, which we'll talk about more obviously later, one of my passions, and in the education department. So that's kind of where I knew that I wanted to end up. And thank God, after 6 years passed, by this time I was able to adjust my status and I became a resident. And that's when I transferred to UCI. So my experience at UCI, because I was a transfer student and no longer undocumented, was different. But the path to getting there was never what I had imagined as a high school student.
For sure. And would you say, so at Southwestern College, for some of you that may not know, it's a community college in Southern California. And I also went there. And I mean, would you say, based on your experience as an undocumented student, like, would you say that how were they able to kind of aid you and provide you with resources? Like, were they on top of it? Were they able to help you throughout kind of knowing what your next steps are every semester, and like also aiding you through like knowing, okay, when am I going to be able to transfer? Like, where am I at? And kind of give you those types of like checks in, or did they not really know like how to kind of provide these services and this help because you're a documented student, or because they're just not equipped with knowing how to go about that, So I'm just curious to know like what that was for you while you were there.
To be honest with you, at least at the time, and like I said, we're talking about when I first came into community college, it's like the early 2000s. So there weren't a lot of people that were equipped to know what to do with undocumented students, or how to help, or how to aid. And wait, you're frozen. Do you still hear me? Yeah, there you are. Sorry. I just, I feel like it was hard to even know where to go. I wish that there would have been something like I've heard that is happening now, which what a great really resource to have. I wish that back then they would have had an office that was, a Latinx resource center, DACA resource center. And I hear that these are submerging now in higher education. And I am so incredibly grateful so that all of those students will have those resources. But at that time, I don't remember there being anything like that, not that I heard of. And so it was still kind of like on my own to go check. And every time that I did go check on my like student education plan, how it was going, it was always kind of a thing until I became a resident that I had to keep reminding whoever I was talking to as a counselor, hey, by the way, I am undocumented. Transferring might be a little bit different for me. Transferring might be a little bit harder. What do you suggest I do? So it wasn't the easy. It was challenging. I have to be honest. It was challenging.
Yeah, I bet for sure. And so let's talk about kind of that transfer process and like you going to UCI and having the status now, right? And how that kind of changed. Really having kind of that status really just changes so much, right? Having that
Yeah.
on under your belt. And so uh when at what point did you kind of decide, like, I mean, I know that you've always been into dancing, you're such an amazing ballerina, ballet folklorico
Thank
dancer,
you.
like so much. So performing
Thanks,
arts,
Jenny.
guys, like she's amazing. And so I mean, I definitely know kind of why you went for that, and chose to major in dance, and minor in education. But can you maybe tap into a little bit more kind of when you knew like, oh, I'm going to go for this and I'm going to major in this,
Yeah.
and like the purpose behind it?
Yeah. I think that anybody who is currently in college, going to college, or has gone through college can relate to this. I think this is like a general thing. You might think you know exactly what you're going to do. Maybe you have no idea, but that will probably change a couple of times throughout your college career. Shout out if you guys think that's right, because
Yes.
I hear that all the time. So I, was no exception to that. I always knew, I will say, I always knew that my passions lied heavily in the performing arts and in advocating for education, and not just performing, not just arts education, education in general. Those were like always my two biggest passions since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So I always knew that was something that I wanted to do. When I finally decided, like, okay, I'm gonna apply to UCI, I see all these little hearts popping up. I'm wondering if it's all the people that have changed their mind in college.
They
Guys,
all agree.
I get it.
Struggle.
I think we all can relate if we're being honest. But
Yeah.
so when I knew I was kind of really focusing on liberal arts and education. And then I kind of had this thought one day. I knew that dance was a huge part of my life. And I said, dance, like any other athletic endeavor, because dancers are athletes, is short-lived in the span of life. It has a window. It is narrow for most people. And I knew that. And I was very conscious and very cognizant of the fact that if I want to have a career in dance, being that due to my undocumented status at the beginning of my college career, I'm going to start much later than most people do. If I'm going to do that, I need to do it now. So once I decided that, and I knew that I wanted to kind of prioritize that goal or that dream, that's when I started researching dance programs. For anybody, by the way, that's like thinking about college, I definitely would suggest researching the programs that you're interested in, so that kind of helps you focus and zero in on the colleges that might be best for you. And that's exactly how I arrived at UCI. Some of my college professors at Salvation College, the community college I attended, would speak very highly of the dance program there. And it is something that I think really motivated me, knowing that these professionals that were teaching me that I looked up to had gone to school there. So that's kind of what made me decide to go in there. Once I got into UCI, which was a very difficult process, I will say, because not only is it a UC school that's expecting for you to have a 4.0 or higher GPA, so that's like the academic part of it, right? So you have to make it into the school. But to be a dance major, you also have to audition and make it into the dance program. So you have to, kind of, you're going into two, different things here. So that audition was like a 7-hour long audition. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a process to get in. But once I was in there and was starting, I think it was after, I want to say maybe my second quarter at UCI, that's when I said, I want to make sure that I have my other option and my other passion, and that's education. So that's when I added the education minor, always knowing in the back of my head that once my athlete, career narrows down on me and I either don't want to dance any longer, or my body's kind of needing for me to slow down, that I would always come back to that other passion, which was education.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's always great to kind of tap into two different worlds. So you did a great thing by majoring and minoring in two different kind of avenues. That way you can, like you said, you can tap into either or whenever the dancing world and that lifestyle, you're no longer able to do that, then you're kind of able to tap into your education, like passion as well. So that's amazing. And I also encourage anyone that's in college to really look into that, either double major, major and minor, and kind of just tap into two different industries or two different academic programs, because you just never know, it can bring so many different opportunities at the end of the day. So that's awesome.
Yeah, hands down, me too. I double on that. Like, if there are two subjects that you're interested in, two different things, I would 100% recommend. It is challenging to try and juggle two different majors, or a major and a minor, but it hands down, I think, pays off. I think it's a great thing to do if that's the right thing for you. So yeah, I encourage it if that's something that anybody's thinking about.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, so then let's now move into kind of like the after graduating kind of life and becoming a professional dancer. And so kind of what that was for you. You've done so much, Abby, and I really look up to you. You've done so many amazing things in the media and like performing arts world. And so let's dive into, so as a professional dancer, Abby, you were able to dance for Disneyland. I mean, that's amazing, okay? Disneyland and some other projects, huge companies and projects that you were able to kind of tap into with your expertise. And so can you maybe touch on how that whole process was dancing as a performer for Disneyland, and then as well for a music industry, and also touring kind of all over the US and in just different areas with just different projects that you were involved in. So can you kind of share on that?
Yeah, of course. After I graduated from UCI, like I said, I was a little older than like 5 years older average than all of my fellow dancers. So that, like, I honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I felt very intimidated by that. Even while being at UCI, I always felt like, oh my gosh, so many of the people around me are at the prime of their training. And if any dancers are watching or watch this later, you guys will know what I'm talking about. You have a prime of training. And for me, that had happened 4 or 5 years before I was at UCI, right? So I definitely felt like I was constantly working hard to keep up. So after graduation, I was like, all right, now we move this dancing into the real world, and what am I gonna do? Because of the proximity of Irvine and Anaheim, where Disneyland is located, I had a lot of friends that already worked in the park. And I just knew, like, I could think of, like, what's the best way to put this? You know, a little girl from Mexico City who would watch, I don't know if you guys remember that show where they would show like families going on vacations to Disney World or Disneyland. This is forever ago. I don't know. Sometime in the 90s.
It doesn't come to mind.
You know, it's a long time ago. And I just remember being this little kid in Mexico City watching like these shows or watching Disney movies and thinking, what a dream. But like in my head, I never thought that I would even go to Disneyland ever. I mean, ever. So when we finally made it to Disneyland for the first time, I must have been around 8 or 9. We watched the parade. And I remember just being like, that is what I need to do. I want to do that one day. And so it was like a dream that finally seemed reachable. It finally seemed like I might be able to make this work. So after graduation, that was actually one of the first things that I did after graduation. I went and I auditioned for Disneyland. I remember it was insane. I mean, the line, I couldn't tell you. Hundreds of people show up to Disney auditions every time. And so again, I was going there kind of knowing, hey, I'm just here for the experience. Hopefully something great comes out of this. And I got hired to do one of the Christmas parades. And that's kind of how that started. I loved my journey at Disney. It was really and truly a dream come true for like,
Mhm.
you know, little Abby who would watch it on TV, think, I won't even go to these parks. And then going there and dancing down Main Street was like, it was a dream. It was a dream come true.
Yeah.
And once I was there, I was surrounded by a lot of people who were really either into the Los Angeles music industry, you know, anything from music videos to movies to commercials. And so you start hearing more about other auditions, people getting agents and such things. And so I think that started really opening me up to what other possibilities I could explore. And that's kind of where I started auditioning to try and see what else I could do. And
Yeah.
eventually I got my first tour, and I toured with Felder Entertainment with Disney Live. For those that may not know, it's like Disney on Ice, but on a stage. So like kind of like musicals,
Mhm.
which was so fun, so incredibly
Mhm.
fun. It was living a dream, you know. I was traveling the US, traveling the world, doing what I absolutely love doing, and
Mhm.
working with great, talented people. So I really feel like what a blessing that I got a chance to, even if I was a little older in my head, you know, when I thought, I don't know what I'll be able to do. So doing all of that was a blessing for me, and something that I will never ever take for granted.
Yeah, you did so much. I was able and fortunate enough to witness you just on your whole role, and you're amazing. You do it so well. So I definitely know that you have a passion for that, and honestly, like you kill it.
Thanks,
So
Jenny.
yeah, so definitely I can attest to it really being your passion, and you really show that,
Thanks.
and so props
Thanks.
for just kind of going for that, and sometimes not doubting. I mean, I know we all doubt ourselves, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
especially like you said, that dream that you had as a little girl, and then like actually being able to accomplish it, like that's
Yeah.
huge, you know. And so
Yeah.
being able to do that and being able to kind of overcome that is amazing. So props.
Yeah.
That I know that a
Thanks.
lot of people will be inspired, and I hope that if you are interested in kind of that world of things, that Abby is kind of like that mentor or that guide that you can kind of reach out to if you guys were to
Yeah.
want to know like more on kind of how to go about it and whatnot. But yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
what would you say are kind of like your next career goals?
Well, this is like a great question
Yeah.
now because, as you all know, and I'm sure everybody was affected one way or another, world
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, COVID hits, and everything, you know, kind of came to a pause, or kind of like a slow, you know, everything kind of slowed down, which was,
Yeah.
it was hard, but it was also personally a great thing, because I think it finally, like, I wasn't touring, I wasn't moving around and traveling, and it really made me sit down with myself and my thoughts. And it was like the best time to reflect, to pray about it, and to be like, what next? You know, what
Mm-hmm.
do I want to accomplish next? I love the entertainment world. I love people, like talking to people, helping people, and I'm very passionate about advocating for education as a means to hopefully better prepare people. And just like that, like all these thoughts were kind of like in my head. And there's part of my story that I didn't touch on earlier, but being an immigrant is, like I said, is very beautiful in some ways, but there are very difficult parts about it. Through my journey, there were all these challenges. Like I can talk about like little things, like when you're a senior, everybody's getting their license, and you're just like, I'll get a ride from you guys. You know, you're just trying to hide all these aspects of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Worrying about, you know, you're going through college, doing homework, trying to put yourself through college, working, and on top of that, you're worrying about whether you or your parents or your sibling will be deported at any given time, because maybe their tail light went out, or they accidentally rolled over a stop sign, and that's going to, you know, kind of escalate into eventually them being deported, or yourself. So you feel like there's no margin of error for you or your family. So there's this like constant challenge and like a constant worry and that anxiety. And I know that a lot of people will relate to this. So I hope that this kind of gives you guys some hope. Eventually, like I said, I was able to adjust my status little by little. My mom, my brother, we were down to my father's. And this is something we just went through in the last couple of years. When they say every case of immigration is different, it's different. So because your path was a certain way, somebody else's may not be the same. And that is true for everybody, which is kind of like something that is very sensitive to me when I hear people say, well, if you just did it the right way, then nobody would be mad, you know? And I'm like, you have no idea, because right? Nobody knows the reasonings or the reason, for a family migrating anywhere else, first of all. So second of all, you don't know what each family or each individual has gone through to be where they're at. And even if everything has been done, quote unquote, the right way, even if, and I'm talking about specifically now my parents, my family, even if they are taxpayers, even if they are incredible and impeccable members of society, like not even a traffic ticket, not a parking violation, you know what I mean, in years, ever since being in the States. And like I said, filing taxes, all that stuff, never taking anything from the government, you know, whatever. And you get to this final step, which we had finally after 16, 17 years of attorney fees, of, like I said, incredible and intense amount of stress. You finally reach a point where we thought, we're going to be good. This is it. We've made it. We're going to cross the finish line. And then this is when the previous government and administration was in, and there were a lot of things that were changing, and there were a lot of things that were low-key in place, because yes, no major laws were changed, but a lot of things were placed to place obstacles, right, for all of these for the migration processes and stuff like that. So we got to this place and my dad was denied for like literally reasons that were untrue. So that's just what it is. So it was crushing. It's when I talk about families being separated is a traumatic experience. It truly is. It is the deepest wound that they can, I don't know, that can happen to these families. Very underserving as well. So when that happened, it's weird because when you're on the other side, when you're either now, me being an American citizen or family members being residents, you feel like, well, you're okay now, right? What's the big deal? The hurt you feel for your family member that is no longer there, that has been quite literally ripped away from you, is traumatizing. It really is. And so we have to think about that, like I said, in a way that it's really happening. It's happening to real people. It's happening to people you know, to people you love, to people you respect, and people you may not even know are going through this, right? So when this is happening, sorry, I'm like going on and on, but all to say,
that's awesome.
My point is, my point in saying all this is, when this was happening, and I couldn't possibly understand why this was happening and why it was happening, not just to my family, but to so many people, to, babies at the border. I'm like, here I am, a 30-something-year-old woman, bawling my eyes out and having anxiety constantly because my family was ripped apart. I can't imagine what a 3-year-old child is going through. Yeah. You know what I mean? So all of these emotions were so high for me during that time. And that's when I realized I need to do something to help. I need to do something to feel like I'm gonna do something on the other side of this story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Mm-hmm.
am not just gonna sit and comfort and like, oh, I've made it. You know, I'm here. So that's when I started really that little like light, or that little thought, I guess, that seed that had been planted was
Mm-hmm.
really like starting to bloom then. And I started really feeling like I have the responsibility to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I reflected so much on that, and I prayed so much on that, and I finally said, you know what, whether it's on the legal side or maybe the education side, I want to help families or students like we were. And that is how it ties into my future goals. I
Yeah.
have kind of started to take a little bit of paralegal courses to see how that goes. But thanks to COVID and all this time I had in my hands to think and to reflect and to really feel, I realized that I think where my heart is really at and what I'm hoping to achieve in the near future is to kind of dive into that education minor that I got in my bachelor's and apply to grad school, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully be able to make a difference in the programs that you and I were just talking about. I see myself, and I'm putting it out there, just manifesting. I see myself, you know, working in higher education, maybe in those like a Latinx resource center or a Dreamer resource center. And I
Yes.
picture, you know, hopefully being a person who, you know, leaving high school at 16, 17 years old, will have someone to say, hey, I know what that feels. I know what you're going through. Come on,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're going to help you out. Here are some resources. Here's some support. And not only that, but I think that there is great, something big to be said about helping out the families and supporting and educating their families. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said before, a lot of times all of that weight is on the students' shoulders by themselves. So if we can
Mm-hmm.
help and bridge that gap and educate the families on what their kids are going through, things could really begin to change. So that's my hope. That's my my goal, is to find my way back and to school and apply to a grad program that's really going to help me achieve those goals, so that I can hopefully help a lot of people that are in the
Yeah.
situation that I once was.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
as a higher ed myself, for many of you that may not know or not, I really do hear exactly where you're coming from. I think I also got into higher ed for that same reason, that I feel like there is that need, there is that demand of providing resources and guiding literally families and holding their hands throughout the process, you know, because
Yeah.
it's not just the student, and it's not only their responsibility to figure out kind of like what are you supposed to do? What are your next steps? You know, it's just
Yeah.
so intense. There's just so much. And at the same time, like for us Latinos and Latinas, like our family, they have a say to kind of what we do and kind of what's like the best like next step, and kind of that decision making. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a whole family thing. It's not just the
Yeah.
individual that makes these decisions, right? So like
For sure.
I've pushed a lot for that too in the institution that I'm employed now. I really do push for that inclusivity of, you know, it's the whole family, it's all their
Yeah.
decision, it's not just the student, and we
That's
have
right.
to meet them at where they're at, you know. And so I feel like a lot of institutions are kind of lacking that, but some of them are so on board already, and they're already kind of making those dots, you know, and
Yes.
providing that resource and that information and that guidance. So so yes, I applaud you and join me on this side of on the higher ed world.
Yes. You're my inspiration, Jenny. I'm going. I'm
Ah,
gonna
thank
get
you.
there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know I've been seeing a lot of little comments here and there. Thank you all so much for joining us. I really also do want to thank you, Abby, for really opening up and being so transparent. and so vulnerable to your story and sharing all that you've experienced, because I really feel like many can relate, you know, and can also learn from this, and hopefully it's inspiring for others to be like, you know, if she did it, I can do it, you know.
Yes.
And all of us to help each other out through this process, because it's not easy, so nos tenemos que ayudar entre todos, ¿no? Todos estamos en la misma lucha. So like we all need to help each other out in whatever way we can, you know. So again, I thank you for your time, and before we finish, I really do like to implement kind of like a little cool game to get to know you in a fun way. So we'll dive into that. So I'll share. So we'll play this game called Fill in the Blank. So I'm gonna say some stuff, and then you kind of just share whatever you would fill that in with. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So Abby's favorite food is?
Okay, as a Mexican girl, that is like an impossible question to have one. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I love food, all food. But if I had to pick just one meal, it would be my mom's enchiladas verdes, hands down, and anything that has my tita salsa, my grandma's salsas.
Nice.
Yes.
You can never go wrong with those.
That's right.
Okay, and so what about Abby's favorite music?
Okay, as a dancer, again, I know that's so cliche. As a dancer, I love music. I feel music. Yeah. I'm so moved by all kinds of music. I think that really does depend on my mood. So like if I'm cleaning the house, then Selena's coming on, obviously. You know, if I'm like driving and I'm in a chill mood, then, you know, I might change it up a little bit. And I don't know, I really do listen to all kinds of music. I love like cultura profética. We're talking about Latinx artists. So yeah, it just kind of depends on my mood.
Nice. Good stuff. What about your favorite holiday? What would that be?
Christmas and Easter. Those are my favorite.
Nice. Okay. And then what was that favorite like dance performance that you can think of that was like, oh my God, top of the top?
Oh, that's a hard one. Oh, that's hard.
You have
one that comes to mind. One that comes to mind is we were doing this Disney Live tour, and we were in Brazil. And we were in this city. If anybody from my cast is watching, you know what I'm talking about. It's called Recife, Brazil. And I wasn't exactly having the time of my life in this particular destination. But then we had our first show there. And later we found out that a lot of those tickets were sold to were gifted to an orphanage. And these kids would have never in their lives imagined going to Disneyland or seeing a Disney show. And the energy that we got back from a full house of these children was absolutely the most wonderful thing I felt, you know, on a stage. They made us feel like rock stars. You could feel their excitement and their love. I'm not kidding. And so I think that comes to mind.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Okay, and what would be your favorite, your go-to favorite like ice cream?
Oh, ice cream is my weakness, girl. Ice cream and cheese, and I am lactose sensitive, so that sucks. If you're lactose sensitive and you can't stay away from ice cream and cheese, get these little lactate pills. Pop one of those before. It's just enzymes, and it'll help you with that. So just a little life hack. Ice cream. Oh my gosh, love all the flavors. Mint chocolate chip or lavender.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah,
that's good. And what would be kind of like your favorite go-to like destination to travel to?
Oh my gosh. I have the travel bug big time, and I feel like after you know, traveling for work, that just got like even, you know, magnified. So, I don't know. I don't think I could choose one favorite. I'm like, I want to see the world. Take me anywhere. Yeah, like really, I do. I want to see and travel as much as I can.
what would be like your next destination right now in your list to visit?
That's a good one. I actually really want to go to Mérida in Yucatan and see a lot of like the ruins there and stuff. Also, my dad's mom, so my abuelita that I never got to meet, was from there. And I would love to go, to see a little bit more in that way. I would love to eat some of the food there. If you've ever had cochinita pibil, then you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably like next. Man, I just want to travel. I'm ready. COVID did it. The travel bug is like biting more than ever before.
Inspiration?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. This is my everyday inspiration. Like I have this on the wall and it really just pushes me to be like, where am I going next?
Yes.
So it definitely helps.
Yeah. I feel like traveling just opens you up in so many ways. You want to grow as a human being, travel and see other people and see other cultures and be open to learning, even if it's just a few words in their language. It's the best.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. 100%. I'm a traveler myself, so I definitely can attest to that. But someone on here had a question about what was your favorite job overall that you've experienced and you've had?
Oh my. That is hard. Oh my gosh, what a great question. Yeah, also I've seen the little comments and I don't mean to not acknowledge all of you guys. I am so grateful for everybody saying cool things and I'm gonna go back and like read them all. I just didn't want to be like sidetracked.
Right.
But that's a great question. That is a great question. I feel extremely blessed. I feel like I have gotten to have some incredible jobs and meet some of the best and most talented people throughout that time. I don't even know if I can choose one favorite job. Like I said, dancing at Disney was a dream job. But then, you know, thinking about traveling and doing what I love was another big dream. And, you know, so it's so hard to have one favorite job. But I can say that something that I missed doing, a job that I absolutely miss and loved, was teaching. I love teaching. I feel like it's so satisfying. It was so satisfying to see the growth in a human being of any kind. You know, whether it is a 3-year-old and you're teaching them motor skills and they're finally able to skip for the first time. Oh my gosh, you like, you know, you scream along with them. Or if it's an adult and you're tutoring them and helping them speak Spanish and they finally understand why it's yo soy instead of yo estoy or whatever it is. And you're like, you know, it's that feeling. So, I can't choose one specific job, but I just feel so blessed to even love everything I've done this much.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good stuff. Well, Abby, I think we've come to the end of our live. I know. You've shared so much about your journey. I really, really appreciate it again for being so transparent and vulnerable and really just sharing your story, because I know, again, like a lot of people can relate to what us Latinos and Latinas go through, you know, coming to this side of the world, you know, and starting life out here, different from where our origin is, you know. And so I think that at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And I really appreciate all that you've done. You've done so much. And I really do hope that people are inspired by your story. And if they were to want to reach out to you for guidance and just to kind of chat or get to know each other, where would people kind of like, where would you want them to reach out to you?
Honestly, if anybody wants to reach out, go ahead and slide into my DMs. No, but really do message me. And honestly, my hope is just, and I've said this from the beginning, just to raise awareness on immigration, on being a Latinx individual. If anything, if you just want to talk and just say, hey, I'm going through this right now. What were some things that like kept you from, you know, having anxiety attacks, you know, being realistic? Or what were some, you know, how can I audition for this or that? If I can help, I would love to. I would love to help. So reach out if there's anything I can possibly do. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Everyone has been so
Yeah.
supportive. Everyone's adding all these great comments and
Yeah.
feedback. So thank you all
everybody.
so much for connecting with us today. Thank you again, Abby. You're amazing. Keep doing
Yeah.
what you're doing. You're going to go
Thanks,
so
Jenny.
far, and you're going to accomplish so much. You guys
Thank
follow
you.
her. She's amazing. She does so much. So thank you all for connecting today with this interview. And Abby, síguele echando ganas.
Gracias, Jenny. Gracias.
Sí, gracias a todos. Thank you everyone for connecting and for joining today. I really appreciate it. And thank you again, Abby. We'll stay in touch.
Of course. Yay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jenny. Yeah. Thank you so much for the platform. This is awesome.
Of course. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Hasta luego.
Bye. Bye.